He wanted to talk. He called me. He said, "Can't I talk to Worth?" He'd call me at home at night. I'd say, "No." He said, "Well, Donati's out of town, and Donati says I can't talk to him. There must be some way." He says, "I don't see why I shouldn't be able to talk to Worth." He says, I think I ought to be able to. I said, "Well," I said, "in the first place, you're getting good advice from Donati. You know, Loeb took Worth down to the big Brotherhood of Christians and Jews meeting and so forth. Loeb is big on that sort of
Yeah, that was before
hoorah.
the injunction, however, but
Oh yeah, that's before the injunction.
yes. But
He
then,
would have loved to have taken him any time. The injunction manacled Loeb perhaps more than it did
so
the
he
Union
got himself
people.
into it. Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't want an injunction. He didn't want to go into court, but there was a great. The sentiment was such that it would appear at one point after he's getting editorials in the paper about what's the city waiting on. The law is clear, and so it would appear that he might be derelict in his duty if he didn't authorize the legal department to go into court.
2 points. Is there any way that we can get the injunction, the first injunction hearings or pleadings? Do you have copies?
The pleadings are of course, public records down in
Yes.
the Chancery Court. I don't have them in my file, no, but they're available to you, and I'll help you get them if you want. But they're all available.
And we'd have to pay for them to get copies. And
I don't know why you'd have. Well, if you had to get copies, you might.
Well,
have to
or
pay
can we
for
get
them.
pleadings and then copy them ourselves? See, we have a strange thing. We have the library who will get them copied for us.
Weintraub ought to be. I'll help you get them from Weintraub.
All right.
Or something like that. We'll try to work that out.
Right. Okay. Well, what I was going to say, that the reason then that Mr. Loeb was not negotiating makes it clear now why there were all of these, I don't know what to call them, not secret meetings, but meetings.
Surreptitious meeting.
Yes.
Yeah, I was sitting in my office about 4 o'clock one afternoon. This was the afternoon when Worth and Blanchard and Kaywood called me. Would I come over? This was while the injunction was in effect, and there were limitations, I thought, and certainly do think, on communicating on the subject of the strike, but certainly Blanchard and Kaywood weren't involved in the strike. So I go over and talk with them. They say they thought they had it settled if we could work out the dues pay, what was this, the credit union.
Credit union, yes.
I read a letter that Worth had written and one that Loeb had written, or vice versa. Loeb wrote a letter to the men. And I said, yes, I don't see much problem in settling this thing, if that's all it takes. I said, of course, Loeb is not in it with these men out on strike. It's still an illegal situation, and he can't deal with it. But then they said, well, come on in here. So I go in to Birch's office, and here sits Worth. And I chatted around there with him a while. Worth, at that point, was willing to leave town, more or less, if and terminate everything if they could get the credit union arrangement. Of course, the credit union arrangement, saying it is one thing, working it out is another. I understand that Worth was concerned about Loeb's good faith in a credit union arrangement. Loeb was not willing to go along with a dues checkoff if it amounted to a payroll dues checkoff under any name. So there was a little, Birch called up Loeb over the phone, and they called each other a couple of names there for a while, and in my opinion, it wasn't close to being settled. I mean, they were far from settling it. Blanchard kept saying, we've got this thing settled. We're on the verge of settling it. We've almost, well, I am not as much of an emotionalist, I don't suppose, as Blanchard at that stage of the game anyway, and I couldn't see it. Kaywood kept saying, we've about got it settled. These men, in my opinion, weren't really close to settling it.
Well, when you came in and you saw whatever instrument it was, the letter from whom to whom, you thought that they were on their way to settling it?
I felt that it could be settled.
Oh, but
it
not
could
right
be
then.
settled.
No.
But I didn't think, with these men's attitude, that it could be settled. I didn't think they were close to a settlement.
Well, what was their attitude?
They said, we've about got it settled. They said, this thing is over. All Loeb has to do is agree to a payroll checkoff, and all Worth has to do is agree to, not a payroll, but a credit union.
Credit union, yes.
And I could see these men weren't going to be able to agree on that for this reason. They weren't talking about the same thing. the way that thing would have had to be worked out would be with some precision. And Kaywood and Blanchard, Birch is quite a realist. I mean, I think he probably had the same attitude I did about it. But Birch was trying to be constructive, in my opinion, and help in this thing. Though I think his personal settlements were with the mayor, Birch throughout this, I think, was trying to be constructive. Anyway, but Kaywood and what's his name, Blanchard, were emotionally involved in this thing, and they were just saying words about this thing is almost settled. I could see that it was far from settlement, though I could see there was an avenue open to settlement. That's perhaps the best way to.
Yeah. Would it be possible, even only for me, to, and this may be too difficult at this point, to define where the difference was in the credit union aspect of it between the two of them?